Now, we talked a little bit about, when we're making ink type lines on Procreate and we used comic book sketching as an example, you might not you want to make nice clean lines, but not necessarily really perfectly straight lines. But now let's talk about the fact that sometimes you do want to make perfectly straight lines. Now, when we're making traditional art on paper and pencil, everyone knows it's very hard to draw a straight line freehand. Normally, we really kind of need to get a ruler. And same with shapes. It's hard to get shapes really perfect, in particular a circle or an oval. So sometimes we do want those nice, perfect straight lines. So you may not be aware, but with Procreate, that is super easy to do. And I just want to take a moment to demonstrate that for you. So here we are back in Procreate, and I am going to use my technical pen to demonstrate how to make really perfect straight lines and shapes. If you recall, that is just in my brushes in the inking section, and I'm going to use technical pen. I've got the size of my pen turned up pretty high, just so you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. So like I demonstrated before, you can draw a fairly nice line, but like I say, it's not perfect. Basically, just like if I were drawing pencil and paper, I kind of need a ruler to make it perfect. Well, not with Procreate. The only little difference that you need to do if you want to straighten your line and make it perfect is you'll draw it and then don't pick your pencil up off the paper or your finger. Leave it sitting on the paper, leave it touching the paper for a moment, and it will straighten itself. So again, I'm drawing my line. It's not perfectly straight, but I leave my pen down, and did you see it go straight? Show you again. Not perfectly straight. Leave my pen touching, and it straightens. And this is even like, if it's really a messy line, it'll still straighten it out. Now, you notice the line that I just drew right here is kind of crooked. Normally, if you want a line to be perfectly straight, you also want it to not be diagonal on your paper. You want it to be straight across your paper too. So now I've drawn my straight diagonal line, and it says edit shape right here. If I tap edit shape, now you see the little dots on my line. You see that it's selected. Remember, we talked about selection tools last week. Now my line is selected. Now I can just touch on the blue dot and I can drag it. I can get it to where it looks straighter to me, or maybe you want it diagonal. And you can just drag it to where you want it. You could also shrink it. You decide you want your line shorter. So that edit shape is how you can kind of change the line a little bit, change the size, change the position. And then you see how this little box up here is blue and it says line. If you click it again, or you click up here on your cursor, it unchecks it. And then you're free to draw more. So that's how to make perfectly straight lines, and also how to move and resize them. But let's go back. I'm going to go to my layers, and this layer that I just placed all my lines on, I just want to get rid of my lines now. And I know I don't want them back, so I'm just going to tap on my layer tools, selection tools, and I'm going to hit clear. Now, the same concept I just used, where I drew the line and then I didn't lift my pen. I left my pen down on the paper for a moment. I'm going to use that to make a perfect shape now. So how about a circle? You'll see this circle is going to be really wobbly and crooked. But I'll leave my pen down and see how it straightened itself out. It made itself nice and perfect. I can hit edit shape right here. And now it's got the little blue dots on it selected. And now I can reshape it. I could turn it into an oval. I can resize it. If I want to make it big, I can just pull at different circles, the little blue dots. I can use any one of those little blue dots to move it. Or maybe I don't want to resize it. I just want to move it to a different place on my canvas. So I can just touch it anywhere and drag it around. That's actually kind of fun. It looks like a cat toy. So then right now it's on ellipse because it's not a perfect circle. But if I switch it to circle, it will turn it into a perfect circle. Because sometimes you want more of an oval shape. So Procreate allows you to do either, but if you drew it not quite perfect and you do want it to be perfectly circular, you can just choose circle and it'll fix it for you. So Procreate does this for many simple shapes. Now you can't necessarily make a really detailed, like you couldn't draw like a detailed drawing of a house and then expect it to make it perfect. But basic simple shapes will work this way. So let me do a quick triangle, kind of messy, but it'll make it perfect for me. Quick rectangle. And as you can see, it just, if I don't draw the rectangle exactly right, it's probably not going to make it perfect. But you can always edit shape and then you can work with it a little bit. You can also change the shape of it too. So there just is a whole lot of fun things you can do. If you're an artist who you really like those nice, crisp, perfect lines, Procreate is awesome because you can create that. I myself like more natural lines, but like my son is one of those artists that wants really perfect lines, and he will go through a drawing and make it really, just take his time and use the Procreate tools to make perfect lines. And he'll just go through and draw really slowly in order to perfect all his lines one by one. And in the end, he comes out with this really, really cool, perfect looking art. So it is a fun technique to use to really focus on your lines. And with each little line and shape you make, leave your pen on the screen and it'll perfect it for you. Now for your homework this week, I want you to make a very simple drawing, and I'm gonna demonstrate how to do it. Now, the reason I want this to be very simple and not finished is because next week we're going to learn all about coloring, different coloring techniques and ways to color very detailed pictures, but do it quickly. Because like we were talking about last week, as a traditional artist, we know that when you draw and color a full drawing, like the great big one I showed you, that takes forever and it can even hurt your hands. So I'm going to show you some ways to get those really cool coloring techniques, but do it very quickly. So your homework assignment for this week is going to set us up to do more with the same piece next week. So this week, all I want you to do is to practice making a line art drawing, like an outline. And I also want you to practice a little bit of the sketching technique where we sketch our layer first and then we ink it. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to make my sketch layer first. So I'm going to go to my brush library and I'm going to hit 6B. Now, I a lot of times will actually use blue as my sketch layer. So I want you, for this week, you're just going to make a fairly simple outline drawing, and a building might be a good thing to draw. So you could draw your own house or just any building that you like. Doesn't have to be anything too complicated. But on your sketch layer, you're working with pencil and you're really just quickly sketching it on there. You don't have to worry about it being perfect because we're going to just get rid of this layer. But let me just do a quick sketch of my house, okay? So actually that's a little hard to see, so I'm gonna bump up my size of my 6B pencil. So I would have my front porch with a door, and then next to the front porch, there's the taller part of the house. Now I didn't leave enough room for my roof, so I can actually hit the selection key, the cursor, move it down a little bit. And now I have room for my roof. So then I'll have my roof over here. And then there's like a little piece of the porch. And then there's another piece of house up here. And another roof. There's a window. And a window. And a window. So this is my sketch layer. And like I said, nothing too fancy. Now I'm going to create my ink layer, which my ink layer, I do want it to be a lot nicer than my sketch layer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select my layers and create a new layer on top. And now my sketch layer that I just created, I kind of want to make it pale. I want to make it so that I can draw over it, see what I'm doing, but still see it a little bit. So do you remember how we would do that? How I would make the layer paler? I would just click on the N or the blending tools mode, and I would just bump back the opacity. But I want to make sure now that I'm on the layer on top of it. And I'm going to ink this now. I'm going to create the outline. So I'm going to actually turn my color black. And now I'm going to go to my inking. And I'm going to select my technical pen. So since this is a building, I can use nice straight lines for this. So I'm going to draw my outline of this hunk of my house. And I'm just going to do it one straight line at a time. Connect over. Connect over. We're going to use this outline next week for our homework, and we're going to add more to it when we learn some really cool coloring techniques. So don't worry about it being a lot more detailed than that. You can make it more detailed if you want, or add a background, but this is good enough for homework this week. So once you get this finished, you can post it in a comment in the classroom so I can see it, or you can show us in the Flipgrid discussion. Please join in the discussion. Ask any questions that you may have. If you need any help with anything, just ask and I am here for you. So I can't wait to see you next week to learn all about coloring and really taking our digital art to the next level. Bye.